Welcome to this forum for Tacoma City Council District 2. I'm Liz Kernitz-Thurlow of the League of Women Voters of Tacoma-Pierce County, and I will be moderating. Thanks to our candidates and to TV Tacoma. The primary election is Tuesday, August 3rd. You must place your ballot in a drop box or get it postmarked by 8 p.m. of that evening. Many local elections will be on that ballot. What won't be there is this one, because there are only 2 candidates, so they both move automatically to the general election, which will be on November 2nd. But we interview them now so you can start to get to know them and what they believe in. The candidates are Sarah Rumbaugh and Kelly Blucher. Welcome. Thank you both for being here. They have agreed to our ground rules, which, among other things, say that they will not discuss each other in their answers. Is that correct? Candidates have up to 2 minutes for opening statements, whatever I give them for questions, and 1 minute for closing statements. Our timekeeper is Susan Eidenschink. She will signal you when you have 1 minute remaining. Do you have the card, Susan? Yep. 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and when it's time to stop. In ballot order, Sarah Rumbaugh will give the first opening statement. After that, the order will rotate with each question. Sarah Rumbaugh, your opening statement, please. You're muted.
Thank you. I want to start by thanking all of you who are joining us today, with special thanks to those hosting this great event. My name is Sarah Rumbaugh, and I'm running for Tacoma City Council District 2. As we emerge from economically and emotionally devastating year of 2020, it's going to take strong, proven leaders to ensure that we don't lose sight of what's most important, like the inequities within our systems, inequities in our housing, employment, and healthcare. We need bold leaders to tackle our community's most pressing issues. I have a career background in fundraising and a proven track record of leadership on various boards and committees around our beautiful city. Above all else, I'm a mother of 2, and I've lived, worked, and raised children here for 15 years. When I decided to run, I chose to do so because I believe in building an equitable, more environmentally sustainable community for our children, and my campaign is an embodiment of those values. From controlling the sprawl of fossil fuel usage through supporting non-interim tide flat regulations, to working with the Puyallup Tribe on environmental cleanup projects, we have to use every tool in the toolbox to help remediate and care for our communities. The Port of Tacoma is our powerful economic engine, and we must work to ensure usage of the port continues to fit our future goals as a forward-moving, equitable, and sustainable community. We know that climate change and environmental degradation disproportionately affects communities of color. Environmentally responsible infrastructure and a prospering green energy sector are pivotal in this racial equity work that is yet to be done here in District 2. As a community leader and an ally, my role in our collective effort to reshape our wonderful slice of Tacoma is to help tackle affordable housing, energy, and infrastructure issues and amplify the voices of our unheard workers and residents. As a mother, I truly understand the urgent necessity of finding innovative and equitable solutions to long-standing issues. My campaign for Tacoma City Council is our campaign, and our movement centered around finding solutions, building coalitions, and strengthening community. And I would be honored to have your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly Blucher, your opening statement, please.
Hi, thank you. So yes, my name is Kelly Blucher, and I'm running for Tacoma City Council position 2. And I wanted to begin with a thank you to the League of Women Voters and all the viewers out there. This is such an honor to be able to present at this forum today, and much of a dream. I'm so excited to help pave the way for more families like mine and children growing up to also go into politics. So a little bit about myself. So I am an absolute proven advocate for our community, having experienced many of the same issues that we work to solve, such as homelessness, addiction, the criminal justice system, obtaining a livable wage job, and a child care cost that often propels families off of the benefit cliff and back into that poverty that we've worked so hard to get out of. And of course, affordable housing. I've advocated at local, state, and federal levels, representing those that often have no voice. And I'm here today because I've seen the change that happens when we are represented, when we have a voice. And for me, it was time that I bring that home and onto the city council. My strength is absolutely in collaboration and the ability to bring together organizations, businesses, leaders to solve pressing issues. I will be a strong and compelling voice on the council. We can find solutions together to end homelessness, address inequities, pathways to economic stability, housing affordability, and ensuring that the climate is a part of each and every one of those conversations and issues. We must have a clean and safe environment for our children to learn, work, and thrive. You're not at the table, you're on the menu. And for me, it's time that families like mine and voices in our community are at the table. Again, I am so honored to be here today and excited for the rest of this forum. So thank you again.
Thank you. We're honored to have both of you here. Now we come to questions, and Kelly Blucher will answer the first question first. And I have lots of questions, and we only have a half an hour. So you only have 60 seconds on this one, and I know you won't finish. Across the US and here in Tacoma, we continue to see the deaths of unarmed Black men at the hands of police. How can and should the City Council address the accountability, training, and deployment of the police?
Absolutely. You know, I think there's a lot of things that we can be done. I know one of the common phrases out there right now is defund the police, and I don't believe that's true. I think we need to reallocate resources to where we are sending more mental health workers and different, crisis navigators out into the community to really address those issues. Oftentimes when we're sending police as first responders, and a situation is very elevated. This is something that's absolutely near and dear to my heart. And what I have noticed in recent times is that we really have a trail of broken promises along police reform. I believe we need more authenticity. We need to really listen to committees such as CPAC and our community members who are devoted and dedicated to seeing the change and have police reform. I think that authenticity is very important to put out to the community, to really have a voice for us to see what is going on and listening to see what issues can be pressed forward.
Thank you. Sarah Rumbaugh. Muted.
Yes. So, this is a conversation that I believe the City Council is having right now because of everything that's happened in the last year and a half when we've really escalated these issues. And I would say that looking at who is actually serving as police officers is one of the first things we need to do. And when we're picking military people to come into our city and be the people who are going to go out and talk to our citizens, we're already setting ourselves up for a certain type of person that's going to be out on the streets talking to individuals and using the kind of information and force that they learned in the military. I think that we need to retrain our police, and I agree that looking at redistribution of the funds that we have been giving to other people in the mental health field and training them appropriately so that they can respond to some of the calls that are necessary. And also as a society, we need to know that 911 is not the only way to reach help. And we need to think that through as well.
Thank you. Question 2, Sarah Rumbaugh is first. How, in your leadership, will you demonstrate your commitment to anti-racism? How will you contribute, and what specific programs will you advocate for to promote racial justice in Tacoma? 90 seconds.
So one of the things I know about racism, because I've been working on this topic since I was on the Human Rights Commission and on several boards where we've been talking about anti-racism, is that unless we first start ourselves educating and learning and reading, we don't have the information we need to go through. So I think the first thing is education, is making sure that as individuals, we're learning and asking questions. But the other thing is holding ourselves accountable to each other. And as a white privileged woman, I know that my job is to listen, and I don't have all the answers. And so I know that I'm going to be talking to other people that look like me and holding them to standards that are similar to what I'm learning. And so sharing the information I'm getting from books, from the different things, that podcasts that I listen to. And then the thing that I think needs to happen with the city of Tacoma is that I would have to actually be there to see what systems we need to look at. But one of the ones that I care the most about is who we're hiring to work at the city, making sure that it reflects our community. And I think that the city has done a pretty good job of that. And so I think that we need to do more of that in terms of each of the different organizations at the city, making sure that they're following those guidelines that they're setting up. And then also sharing that with our community so that there is more resources for different organizations like lawyers who want to learn to have a more anti-racist office and how to hire different people to work there. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly Blucher.
Well, thank you so much. So I am blessed to be in a family where my partner is Black. I raised 2 Black children. And from being in that discussion, which we've been in for many, 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 many years, I believe that what we are facing right now is something of a woke-topia. And there is like this sudden push. Well, these are things that have been happening. The systematic oppression has been happening for so long. What we're seeing is like a rapidly gentrifying community. You know, we need to address that. We need to continue to address that. We need to also address inequities in housing, health, home ownership. These are problems and issues that have always been around for such a long time, and we must continue to have that open dialogue and really bring more voice to the table. Now, our LGBTQA plus brothers and sisters, our trans brothers and sisters, they continue to fight to face violence and inequities at just an enormous rate. It's important for us to have things like gender neutral bathrooms. Again, with that open dialogue, we're bringing folks that are experiencing this into every single conversation. This is a continuous battle that we're fighting. And although I see steps and to decreasing inequities, we're not there yet. There is so much that absolutely needs to be done. And again, until we have those voices at our table, we just have to keep moving forward with voice.
Thank you. Question 3, Kelly Blucher will be first. Tacoma's Planning Commission has recommended initial growth scenarios for home in Tacoma. Low-scale and mid-scale development in single-family areas is being recommended. In the 2nd District, Northeast Tacoma, is one area which might be greatly affected. What are your views? Do you have any new or different suggestions? 60 seconds.
Well, again, I think this is an issue I myself face with obtaining home ownership. I'm currently a renter, as are several of my neighbors here in North Tacoma. Home ownership is something that is way out of our income bracket. So I believe that we need to increase housing solutions. We need to have more options for housing. And I do believe that begins with increasing housing density and building inward rather than outward, so that we're continuing to protect our environment. I believe that increasing housing density will give us more options and help us build up our infrastructure, increase walkability, transit options, all of those things. And I also think we need to make it easier for Northeast Tacoma and North Tacoma alike to have more options for ADU units. That'll also help those of us that are working towards home ownership and affordability to become more attainable. And the last thing I want to say is really increase home sharing options. This is so key to ending homelessness as well and diverting homelessness.
Thank you. Sarah Rumbaugh.
Well, I was on the Housing Equity Task Force for the Human Rights Commission, and so I helped to put together the part of the Home in Tacoma project where we talk about racial equity. And I want to say that one of the things that I think people are scared of this because they don't have any examples. And so as we were putting this together and we look at District 2, it's a perfect example of this is already happening. If we're walking around Stadium District, there's tons of duplexes and triplexes that are already existing that you don't even know exist. And that's one of the things, is making sure people understand what's available already and that's happening, so they can understand that it's not as scary as they think. The other thing is we need to provide more types of housing, because there are people who are aging out of their housing and they want a different choice and they can't find it in my neighborhood in Northeast Tacoma. They're actually having to move to Gig Harbor. So we want to keep people as residents by making sure we add that next layer of housing that provides for more types of housing for people who are aging and also people who are younger who can't afford to live here.
Thank you. And you're first next time, so stay unmuted. And it's going to be 1 minute unless I tell you otherwise. The Tacoma Town Center is back in discussion, 21st to 23rd Streets, Jefferson to Tacoma Avenue. It currently includes 537 market rate apartments and 98 affordable, set at 80% of AMI. Many of our homeless or potentially homeless residents do not live at anywhere near 80% AMI. Do you think the project needs to be adjusted to meet the needs of some of these residents? And how should the proportion of market rate and affordable units be adjusted?
Well, if I was talking to a bunch of developers, they would tell you that we don't do enough to allow, incentivize them to want to create that affordable housing that would be at the 30% or even less market of rate. And I think that the only way we make this happen, and it's so disappointing, is that we have to make it required, that we have to require a certain amount. And we need to do that and to make sure that we are providing what we need in our community, which is all different types of affordable housing. Affordable housing at 80%, I think I did the numbers, it was like $54,000. And that's just, I just don't think many families can afford that. And I still think that we need to look at those, that finding ways for people who are that are earning minimum wage to be able to live here, and also homeless people, and providing them a part of that in any kind of development that we're creating, being able to find that. So I have a longer answer, but I don't have time for it. So
I hope we'll have time in another forum. Thank you. Kelly Blucher.
Thank you so much. And yes, I agree on all of that. I think to actually get to the question as to what I think it should be adjusted to, I think it should be adjusted to 30% AMI in many of those units. We know that so many people experiencing homelessness are receiving SSI or SSDI as their only means of income. They don't have room in there for, or are not able to obtain, part-time or any further income, or it would kick them off SSI or SSDI. A lot of people are very afraid to go off those benefits. So I think a 30% AMI would be much better apt to help us solve things such as ending homelessness and solutions for those experiencing homelessness. I also know that in utilizing our rent assistance funds that are currently out there right now, most of the people utilizing those funds fall below about a 50% AMI. So I think that also needs to be taken into account as well. And then we're really talking about the people that are making minimum wage and really making renting and ownership attainable to them as well.
Thank you. Okay, so Kelly Blucher will be first. I'm changing the subject briefly. Tacoma Arts Live will no longer be managing the city-owned theaters. Do you see a way to repair the rift? And do you think Tacoma Arts organizations should be required to show a profit? 1 minute.
No, I will be completely transparent and say that this is not an issue that I have a lot of experience on. What I do think is important is to connect with people that are on the Tacoma Arts Commission, on the Art Commission, and really talking to more families as well that are involved in those areas to really address what is going on. I do believe absolutely in the importance of art and theater and so many activities for our children. We must have more of those options available for our families. So I think that is definitely one way to look at it. Again, I think it would just be really important for me to connect with the art community on this one as well, because it's not a topic I'm super familiar with. But that's the beauty of being a first-time candidate, right? Is talking to the community and having the opportunity to find out what those solutions are and being more involved in those things.
Thank you. Sarah Rumba.
Well, this issue hits close to home for me. My stepson, Forrest, actually works for the union that does the work at the theaters, and to know that he does the construction of the sets, and to know that someone who had been working there for 24 years was just laid off of a job because they've decided to lose that contract. I mean, what this does is make it non-union jobs. And so that's the part of it that's really unfortunate for me, is that those were good paying jobs. Those are good living wage jobs with a career. And to know that our city doesn't support having a union type of job associated with something that's part of our city is really unfortunate. And I think it is something that kind of will set us apart from other cities now. I mean, make us more like everybody else, but also that was what was special about us, was that we had the Pantages, and our theater system was union run, and now it will not be. And so I think that this is an unfortunate thing that has happened with our city.
Thank you. Sarah Rumbaugh first. City plans regarding climate change do not deal with vehicle emissions, our single largest source of greenhouse gases. What does the city need to do to reduce emissions?
Wow. I guess so. When I've talked about this question before, it's been on like natural gas and talking about the water raising. As far as emissions, I know that like when we, if we allow for other types of transportation and other ways to get around our city, we're going to be able to lower those emissions. And unfortunately, in Northeast Tacoma, we have a bus in the morning and the bus at night. So expanding our bus service would be the first thing that we could do, and would be relatively simple. I also think that the light rail is going to do a lot once it starts, the one that's going to be going through District 2, which is really exciting. That will do something as well. But I also think creating areas where people can, like where we connect, where there isn't the bus, there isn't a way for people to get to the bus, and making it simpler by adding more areas for people to catch the bus is important. We have missing links in our city. And also that density that we talk about with Home in Tacoma will allow for that, for, you know, in some way for the emissions to go down, because people won't need to use cars because they'll be located in an area where there's transit. So those are some ways that we could lower the emissions.
Thank you. Kelly Blucher, sorry.
I think a plan for what we can do to reduce emissions, and this is so important, especially with the heat wave that we just went through, was absolutely unprecedented. We do need to reduce the number of cars that are on the road, absolutely. And I think I agree that within that building more housing density and having the walkability and providing more transportation are absolutely key to these issues. And I absolutely agree. In North Tacoma as well, and in Northeast Tacoma, our bus transportation is not very feasible. It is taking people 2 to 3 hours to get, to South Pierce County or King County, where they're working on a bus transportation system. So we do need to increase access to transportation. And I think that will come with building up the housing density and having more units. I think that'll get more cars off the road. And I really, truly believe that that's key to reducing those emissions.
Thank you. This will be the last question. Kelly Blucher will answer it first. How can Tacoma provide affordable housing and other needed services to those who need help in Tacoma? How can we ensure safe shelter of everyone in Tacoma? Kelly Blucher, it's yours.
Thank you. I was writing that down as a multi-part question. So how can we ensure safe shelter? Some interesting things have happened lately where we, through the coalition, the homeless coalition, we put 100 sites forward to potentially be shelter sites. Only 2 of those sites were actually considered by the city. And that blows me away. So I think we need to talk more with communities about shelter options in those communities. A great example of that is on 6th and Orchard. There was a lot of pushback from the community as far as having that tiny home village there. And it's been very successful and very well welcomed. So I think, we really need to talk to those communities and get rid of the scare tactics that come with increasing shelter, having shelter in your neighborhood. I also, as far as increasing housing options, again, let's talk about those multi-use units. Those are going to be so important, lowering that AMI to make it more attainable. And things like, even to get people that are experiencing homelessness into shelter, we need to really address things like evictions. That is so important. That is keeping so many people out of housing. So I do think we need to address those things. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Rumbaugh.
Could you read the first part of the question or the whole question again? I'm sorry.
Sure. How can Tacoma provide affordable housing and other needed services to those who need help in Tacoma? How can we ensure safe shelter of everyone in Tacoma?
Yeah. So one of the ways that we'll be able to create more housing is with Home in Tacoma, because we know that 75% of our city is single family. And if that's the only option there is, a lot of people can't afford a single family house. And so that's why it's really important. And it's important and imperative that our citizens understand the significance of how we'll create more housing. We have 13,000 people who need housing, and that's what the prediction is, and we need to find that housing. As far as shelter, I'm not certain that people believe in shelter as far as the stability sites. I believe more in finding permanent solutions, and that means that we should be buying, with our affordable 0.1% for affordable housing, we should be buying hotels and motels right now to house people, because many of the people on the streets have had a lot of trauma, and it's re-traumatizing to go to these shelters. So as much as a shelter might work for some people, if it's a small number of people, I think a lot would choose an SRO over the shelter choice, and we may be able to get more people off the streets. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Now it's time for closing statements. You each have up to 1 minute. Kelly Blucher will give the first closing statement.
Well, again, thank you so much for this opportunity today to really talk about these issues. I do wish there was longer time limits, as there's so much to address, and I think so many things that we missed. And I think it's important for me right now to really thank all the community supports that I have had out there, League of Women Voters, you as well. I am so blessed and overwhelmed with the support I've had within the community to really have a voice and represent those that are living here. I couldn't be more proud and honored to be running for this position. And certainly also, Sarah, I'm so proud of you as well. I think that's amazing when we have women going into politics, and what we are doing, again, is just really paving the way for the next generation. And I think that's so important. So I'm very excited to have the opportunity to learn more from the community, and really would ask that anybody, reach out to me, talk to me, tell me about your issues. I want to know. I want to learn, and I want to be the best representative that I can be. And thank you again for having me here today.
Thank you so much. Sarah Rumbaugh.
As we bounce back from a really tough year, we need strong, proven leaders that will hit the ground running, tackling our community's most pressing issues, like the inequities in our housing, as we've talked about, employment and healthcare. When I decided to run, I chose to do so because I believe in building an equitable and more environmentally sustainable community for our children. And my campaign is an embodiment of those values. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for providing this opportunity. I want to thank Kelly Blucher for being such a great opponent. And thank you for joining me today. I'd be honored for your support.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the candidates for being with us, and to you for watching. Kelly Blucher and Sarah Rumbaugh are candidates for Tacoma's 2nd Council District. As there are only 2 of them, they will not appear on the primary ballot, but will be on the general election ballot on November 2nd. So we're going to get to do lots more forums with them. Thank you so much.